Good morning, Nico, and thank you so much for coming through to our studios.
Good morning to you and to the listeners. So
You've-
my question is, what would happen if somebody gave you 20 million rand?
Oh,
Yes,
sure.
please.
What would you do?
Good question. Very good question.
Yeah, like, where do I start?
I mean, seriously, I think that's a tough one to answer because, it's a lot of money.
Mhm.
But yeah, how do we handle 20 million?
Okay. The first thing I would do, and I think let's perhaps do that as the measurement here, I would do nothing for at least a week. Because I have learned that when you come into lump sum money, it can be stressful. And I know that because people contact me all the time when they've suddenly come into lump sums of money. I'm going on pension. I've got money. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to handle it. I've won the lotto. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to handle it.
There was an inheritance, maybe.
Inheritances come in. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to handle it. So I would initially just not do anything, and I would take some time off. The second thing I would do is to decide what is it I'm really wanting to do with the money. And I would certainly divide it up into blocks. So obviously I would want to settle some of my debts. That's important. I would also want to work out who's going to benefit from that money. As a Christian, I believe that God allows us to benefit on behalf of other people. So when we get a grant like that, it's not necessarily only for my bank account that money is being given. So I would have to say who in my family needs to benefit from that, who in my wider circle needs to benefit, and who in the community needs to benefit. So if I blab out right up front that I've got 20 million, I
Ooh,
promise you I'm going to be more popular than the most popular politician
true
for a
story.
while, but it's going to be for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
And so I need to protect myself from that. So having decided that there's got to be a sharing of it, then it's a question of what do I do and how do I handle it? Whatever I do, SARS is going to eat a lot of that 20 million if I make the wrong decision.
Very true.
They can take up to a third of that money depending on how. And I'm not that fond of SARS that I'm wanting to give them more than they're entitled to. They're going to take whatever happens, but they're not going to take more. And so that decision has got to be made carefully. With that part of the money that's got to be invested, and some would have to be invested, I've got to consider how much gets invested inside of South Africa, how much gets invested outside of South Africa, and what asset classes are going to be involved, because that also will affect, and that's where the skill of a financial planner comes in. Also, I've got to decide whether that money is going to be invested in my own name or whether it's going to be invested in a family trust situation. And that's important because although it sounds a lot of money, if I'm wanting the next generation, people who are 5 or 6 years old now, still to benefit, that means the money has got to last long after I have died. And so I've got to take those kind of factors into account. And that's really important because often people come to me and say, I'm reaching the end of my life. I've got 40 million. And if I look at my family now, I'm not sure they're going to be able to handle it. I've been the business
Sure.
person.
Yeah.
So that's when those kind of factors become important. And if you think that money's got to last for 20 more years, then 20 million is actually not all that much money
True.
if you look at what inflation's going to be. So the question really is, if money comes in, who is going to be the beneficiary of that money? How long has that money got to last? And then you do need to get some help to look at the decisions. So it may sound like a lot of money the first day when you hear the news, but if you've got a grandchild of 3 years old and you're wanting to provide for their education, then it's not quite as much money as you think. And the way you invest has got to be carefully planned, because you don't want to make SARS the donation of 30% of the money.
Exactly.
You'd rather put it away so that your grandchild can benefit. But it would be nice to get that kind of money.
It definitely
and we
would.
certainly can make a big difference to a lot of lives.
Yeah. And even with regard to that, Nico, in terms of the thing of setting up something that outlasts you and your family. So, I think, for example, of the Amy Foundation, Amy
Yes.
Beale, and that whole situation, the Amy Foundation doing amazing work. And there are so many examples of that where people have said, I've got money. God has gifted me with the business acumen or whatever to make money. I don't want to just be super rich. I actually want to make a real difference with regard to that.
There's a member in our church who had a vision one day, and she feeds 3,000 people every single day. And she's not wealthy, but she had a vision. She said, this is what God's told me to do. She's put together the structures. She's learned how to say to people, this is what I've got to do. And she now makes a big difference in society. And certainly, you're right, 20 million can make a big difference in society.
Once again, Nico, thank you very much for giving us something to think about. But what we clearly hear is that how important it is to plan. And one day you will retire, and one day there will be a lump sum of money coming your way. You need to start preparing and figuring out those things. And again, have your priorities right.
Yes.
Nico Kleynhans, thank you so much for chatting to us. We really appreciate you, sir.
Sure. Thank you.